Hello everyone. I just wanted to check in today actually with my second blog, which seems quite relevant at the moment. So I wanted to just put some ideas past you and see what you think. So today's blog is called The Life Grid and how that may affect us during present times. And of course, I'm referring there to COVID-19 and the pandemic that's happening at the moment. But actually, what I think is it might also be a really good reflection for you in general, sort of away from COVID-19, about your own emotional tanks and how that works within a structure to keep emotions kind of more level than they perhaps would be if we were suffering from anxiety. So I'm going to hold something up to the screen right now because I've not yet got a whiteboard behind me. But I don't know if you can see this, but this is a grid. So what would happen is that each one of you would use this template to make your own grid. And within the grid here, I've created squares in relation to my life. So for example, I've got a square for work, I've got a square for my friends, I've got a square for my family. What's also important to me is trips away, maybe going to the gym, meditation, and I have, just to show you my example, I have a square with the word John in it. So what you actually do is you set this grid up for yourself and you create the squares of what's important to you in your life. So what you're involved in, what you value, what's important to you. And when you've completed that, so it doesn't matter how many or how little squares it's got in it, but when you've completed that, this grid represents the sort of structure of your life. So what is important to you is in that grid, and what keeps you occupied and balanced is in that grid. And if you could then relate the grid to your emotional well-being. So basically what I'm going to show you is this. So if I have everything that I've just shown you in my grid, and then one day one of the squares gets a bit of a rumble because I lose my job. I'm not able to go to work anymore. What happens there is the rest of the squares, even though that square's disappeared, and that's actually a really stressful time for me, the other squares within the grid hold me together, because even though something has happened to my work at that point in my life, I've still got family, I've still got friends, I've still got my study, I've still got some hobbies, I've still got things that keep my emotions balanced. However, and what's quite important here, so imagine that my life grid only contained the word John, because this person John is actually really, really important to me at the risk of everything else. What happens to my emotions if something happens to John? And I'm sure you can imagine that that's not particularly a good thing. So having some structure, having some interest, having different aspects to life and being able to identify what those are is quite important. But also what I wanted to do here is to re-look at the grid when we look at the effects of the pandemic. And the reason I'm showing you this is because I think when people have anxiety, it's because they have had a reaction to the anxiety feeling that they have, which is overwhelming when it first happens. And actually, each time they feel that feeling going forwards, it's like, oh my goodness, my anxiety's come back. And I think at the time we're in, that's a really easy thing to do. So when we feel anxious, we relate it to the fact that we've had anxiety, and we think that our anxiety, our panic attacks, or our anxiety disorder has returned. But actually, if we look at my grid once more, I've got in there work and friends, and I'm just going to have a look, study and family and the person John, and meditation and trips away and the gym. They're all in mine. How many of those have been affected by what's happened with COVID-19? And if I'm honest, my work's been affected because a lot of my clients that I see face to face have now had to go on to Zoom. My ability to see my friends is now fairly non-existent at the moment, and could be worse with a full lockdown. My study has been affected because everything has gone online. My family has been affected, and my connection to them has been affected. We probably my relationship with John, whoever John is, but as I say, John, you know anything that you put on here. The ability to meditate, yeah, it has been affected because there's lots of things going through my mind at the moment. Trips away, hugely affected by the pandemic. I've been able to go to the gym. It's now done in quite a regimented way, where only limited people can book certain times, or in the midst of the pandemic, it wasn't an option at all. So all of these things that make up my emotional structure and well-being, because they're all very important to have all been affected by COVID-19. And the way that I see that is that would make somebody possibly feel quite anxious. And so I think where I'm going with this is to let you know that maybe it's not about your anxiety coming back. Maybe this is actually really normal. It's normal to feel anxious in these times. So I'm hoping that this has helped. I'm hoping it's been able to provide you with some reflection. So if I just summarise what I've tried to do today, is to show each and every one of you how structure helps well-being. So how what we have in our life contributes to our well-being, and how if one square is erased for whatever reason on a temporary basis or whatever, other things help us to stay focused and alert and give us a sense of general well-being. But if we only have one thing in that we put everything into, all to do with work, nothing else. All I do is work 24/7. I don't see family, I don't see friends, I don't have any hobbies. It's all about work. If at that point I lose my job, that's going to really affect me, because I've not really got anything else to fall back on, because I've put everything into work. But then I wanted to show you how that structure can be shook by a pandemic and what's going on at the moment. And I think we've identified today that every single square in there has been affected by what's going on globally at the moment. And I think that would cause significant anxiety. So if your emotions are a little bit rumbled and areas of your life are becoming really difficult, please believe that that's normal. That doesn't mean that your anxiety is returning. It's normal to feel anxious now. So it's kind of like, do you know what? Go with that a bit. Tell yourself that that's normal, because it's really important, I think. I hope that's helped. I'll be back soon with another blog for you. Thank you.